ex-husband revealed as doctor during her amazing birth, the surprising act that changed everything. Sarah leaned against the wall of her dim apartment, her breaths shallow and uneven. The room was a collage of her dreams. The half-finished canvases leaned awkwardly against one another. The vibrant hues of paint turned into heavy shadows as time painted over possibility. She pressed a hand against her belly, feeling the undeniable urgency of life blooming within her, alone. The weight of impending motherhood teetered dangerously on her already strained shoulders. Each contraction echoed deep in her bones, dragging forth waves of doubt that crashed against her resolve. Was she ready for this? She had sacrificed so much in the name of responsibility, pushing aside art, the one thing that had once made her feel alive, until it felt like a layer of dust on the forgotten memories of her youth. The clatter of cutlery from the diner down the street punctuated her thoughts, a stark reminder of her current reality as a waitress, balancing bills and a single life. Suddenly, the very thought of bringing a child into the world on her own felt more like a punishment than a blessing. Then, without warning, the apartment door flung open. Tom stood there, her ex-husband, his once boyish face now lined with determination and worry. A doctor. She had rolled her eyes through those years of medical school in which he had dreamed. Now, that dream was reality, barging through her intimate moment of turbulence like an uncontrollable tide. "Sarah," he called, concern etched in his voice. For a fleeting second, a crack of warmth pierced through her tangle of resentment and fear. Yet, along with it, came anger. How could he just show up now, willing to help while she had fought this battle alone? As he stepped inside, a familiar tension surfaced, layered with everything they had avoided addressing. The years apart rang heavy. He was here, tasked with a monumental responsibility, yet in her heart, old grievances shuddered, neither forgiving nor forgotten. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With every passing minute, her anxiety surged higher as labor intensified. The clock ticked heavily as Tom moved around the cramped space, adjusting his physician's bag, but she struggled to find the words to breach the chasm between them. Every contraction pulled her face taut, volcanic eruptions of pain punctuating the moments they lingered in silence. All that old hurt bubbled to the surface, a complicated mix of love and resentment, memories forever entwined. Suddenly, the cheerful anticipation shifted. A slow panic began to creep in with the realization of impending complications. Moments of laughter and shared memories turned grim. Doubts resurfaced like lurking shadows, threatening to engulf the budding flicker of hope she had dared to entertain. As Sarah faced this tumultuous storm, their gazes locked. She could see the flicker of understanding behind Tom's eyes. But did it truly matter? Would he be able to push aside the wreckage of their shared past to save what laid before them? The converging currents of pain and turmoil felt insurmountable. Would they go under together or rise anew? With the clock ticking inexorably onward, Sarah steeled herself against the chaotic uncertainty, feeling her past and future collide in the most visceral way. In this defining moment for both of them, fraught with what-ifs and buried fears, she braced for whatever lay ahead, knowing that to confront their shared history might just be the key to survival. Tom moved closer, his expression a mixture of hesitation and urgency. "We need to focus, Sarah. I'm here for you. Let's get through this together." His voice, calm but firm, pierced through the chaos that engulfed her mind. But could she trust him? As another contraction seized her, Sarah gritted her teeth. She wanted to scream at him, to express every ounce of frustration, of betrayal. Instead, she felt the rising tide of need, a need for cooperation, for shared responsibility in the moment that mattered most. "Why now, Tom?" she gasped as the contraction ebbed. "Why do you care after everything?" His eyes softened, mirroring the complexity of her emotions, but it did nothing to ease her heart, which pounded with equal parts fear and longing. "Because," he began, searching for words almost as if they were foreign to him, "I lost you once. I'm not losing my child." The weight of his declaration hung between them, a bridge extending over years of silence and unaddressed pain. Each word continued to spin a web of conflicting feelings. She had seen the world turn colder during their separation, yet here he was, providing warmth where she had imagined only animosity. Caught off guard by her own desire for validation and connection, Sarah struggled to gather her thoughts. The clock was relentless, ticking away moments that felt like a lifetime. "My life didn't pause when you walked away," she said sharply. Fury and vulnerability mingled. "I know," he replied, taking her hand, the warmth of his touch igniting something deep within her, something she had buried beneath layers of resentment. "I'm here now. Let's face it together." His voice anchored her amidst the cresting waves of anxiety. He wasn't just a reminder of her past, but a potential ally in her present. The next wave of pain hit her, fierce and all-consuming, pulling her deeper into the moment, blurring the edges of her reality. As the world around faded away, it was just her and the life she was about to bring forth. "Focus on your breathing, Sarah," Tom guided, reminding her of the simple act that had once connected them. With his encouragement, she grasped onto that breath, letting it harness the energy swirling within her. Like an artist at her easel, she took ownership of each stroke, each breath, each contraction, transforming her pain into a testament of resilience. For what felt like an eternity, they navigated the tempest together. With every exhale, she embraced the vulnerability of motherhood that loomed near. Each contraction became a crescendo, harmonizing with her heartbeat, fueling the ambivalence she felt towards Tom. Suddenly, the resolve she sought sparked within her, a flicker of acceptance. They were tangled together in this moment, bound by necessity, but liberated by possibility. As the final contractions came upon her, she felt herself teetering on a precipice, acutely aware that this was the time to confront the pieces of her life, both past and present. "Tom," she whispered, the vulnerability weaving into her voice, "if we make it through this, we can't go back to being strangers. We'll have to face everything." He nodded slowly, a reluctant understanding solidifying between them. "Then we start now. No more running." The atmosphere thickened as Sarah's determination surged, her body pulling together the fragments of her spirit, those last pieces of her identity seeking resolution. As they prepared for the final push, she found herself at a crucial intersection. This was a pivotal moment not just for her child, but for the potential rebirth of their own lives. And just then, as the room swayed with all their unresolved histories, the door to their future swung slightly ajar, revealing everything they could become together, even as fear held its grip tight. With a final heavy contraction, Sarah felt the barrier between who she was and who she needed to be shatter. What lay ahead remained hidden, and as Tom held her hand tighter, the stakes of their shared journey climbed higher. What would they discover about themselves in the uncharted territory of parenthood and forgiveness? The moment of truth was on the cusp of breaking. The final contraction surged like a tidal wave, flooding Sarah with a tempest of strength and determination that pushed her beyond the limits of fear. As her body instinctively followed the rhythm of nature, the pain twisted into something magnificent. Each wave brought her closer to bringing new life into existence. She grasped Tom's hand, an unexpected anchor in a storm she had always thought she'd weather alone. "Push, Sarah!" The voice of the doctor broke through the haze of her concentration. Yet somehow it felt distant, overshadowed by the pounding of her own heartbeat. With his presence, Tom transformed from a source of confusion into an ally at her side. She could feel the deepening intensity in his grip, the sweat on his brow mirroring her own. This was more than just childbirth. It was a confrontation of emotions, shared pain, and perhaps the beginning of a repair she never thought. In that moment, Sarah paused long enough to truly see Tom, not just the man who had once abandoned her, but the one standing there, willing to share this monumental experience. And for the first time amidst the turmoil, she began to question her narrative. The words echoed in her mind. What would she allow him to be in her life moving forward? The contraction subsided, but not before it left Sarah panting, her body trembling from the exertion. Is it too late to decide? She thought, heart racing at the possibility of what rediscovery could mean. As hope cracked through her armor of resentment, her eyes locked onto Tom's. Each moment contained the weight of every unspoken word between them. Just one more, the nurse said encouragingly. Tom leaned closer, his gaze flickering with a mix of determination and worry. "We can do this," he said, his voice steady, a promise hidden in the urgency of the moment. It struck her that he believed in her when she found it difficult to believe in herself. Amid the chaos, the doctor instructed her to focus on him, to visualize strength rather than fear. So she did. Sarah dug deep, summoning every ounce of resolve buried under her doubts. She imagined herself rising, not just as a mother, but as a woman reclaiming her identity. With each push, a cascade of change swelled within her. The boundaries she'd carefully delineated between her past and the could-be future began to dissolve. Memories of hurt lingered, but lost their power over her as she forged ahead. The act of bringing forth life transformed into an exhilarating declaration of self. And then came a moment of piercing clarity, the realization that her journey didn't have to be defined by isolation or past ghosts. If she could survive this moment, she could confront any future. When the baby finally let out a cry, it was as if the world paused. The rush of fulfillment filled the room, intertwining with the remnants of uncertainty, the need for forgiveness, the longing for connection. Tom's expression morphed with astonishment, and it was clear he was changed too. "It's a girl," he breathed, glancing at her with an intensity Sarah hadn't seen before, as if recognizing the miracle before them was a window into a possible new beginning. As they held their daughter between them, a tangible symbol of shared life and shared pain, the echoes of their previous selves faded, replaced by the weight of an impending decision. Could they truly work through the past, face the unhealed wounds, and strive for a future worth claiming together? Sarah felt the enormity of the task ahead. Above the awe of new motherhood, an old question lingered. Could forgiveness foster a bond stronger than their history of hurt? The room buzzed with the life they had created, yet uncertainty loomed. Would they be able to coexist within the complex web of parental roles and unresolved emotions? As she cradled her newborn close, Sarah realized change was within reach, but clarity on what they would become remained dangerously elusive. In that electrifying moment, as Tom quietly marveled at the child who was both his and hers, she knew they stood on the brink of irrevocable transformation. What would unfold next as they stepped into this new, unfamiliar territory of shared responsibilities and gut-wrenching emotional honesty? The clamor of the delivery room faded into a distant hum as Sarah clutched her daughter, each breath a jagged fusion of euphoria and trepidation. The soft whimper of the newborn, still raw from her introduction to the world, lingered in Sarah's ears as she gazed into the tiny face before her. There were no manual instructions for motherhood, just a pulsating instinct that surged through her. Tom stood alongside her, his hands trembling. She caught the flicker in his eyes, a combination of elation and newfound responsibility. Yet the victory was bittersweet. Lingering doubts clouded the edges of Sarah's heart. Did she truly believe in this fragile reconciliation? As the nurse gently cleaned their daughter, Sarah's mind raced. Thoughts of the past whispered dark truths. Tom's absence had carved deep channels into her perception of love and trust. In that space, resentment had thrived. But could a shared moment of joy truly rebuild what was broken? "Can you hold her for a moment?" she asked, her voice breezy but buoyed by nervous determination. Handing over their child felt like relinquishing control, an act intertwining desperation with an attempt at vulnerability. The weight of Leah, her daughter, rested on Tom's forearms, and for a heartbeat he looked completely transformed. She observed him closely as he cooed at the baby, disarmed by an emotion she hesitated to name. Each coo sent a ripple through Sarah's body, a tug of something raw yet tender. Would this be a new beginning or another inevitable heartbreak? The idea of allowing Tom deeper into her world now came with seismic shifts. The doctor, moving around them to check on Sarah, lifted her spirits with soft encouragement. "You did wonderfully, Sarah. This is just the first step." She nodded, but felt the echoes of her own fragility. The world outside this moment loomed large and daunting. Would the trials ahead overwhelm her, or would the strength she discovered in labor serve her as she ventured into the storm of co-parenting? "Thank you," Tom said, surprising her with his sincerity. "I know I wasn't great at this before, but I want to be better." His confession struck her with the potency of vulnerability. Yet could she accept this version of him, stripped of pretense? As they settled into the delicate balance of new parenthood, Sarah felt the foundations of her new identity forming. She no longer was just a woman marked by abandonment. She was a mother, an intense force to be reckoned with. Yet doubts still gnawed at her. How would they navigate the turmoil of their shared past and the uncharted paths of parenthood? Tom still hadn't grasped the intricacies of her heartbreak. How could she convey what she felt, the moments of loneliness, of self-discovery built on fragments of loss? "Let's figure it out together," he said softly, almost earnestly. But in the recesses of her mind, caution whispered that words alone would not erase the wounds. She watched as he adjusted Leah in his arms, a tender image contrasting sharply with her guarded apprehension. The possibility of forgiveness trickled in. Was this the beginning of something meaningful? Perhaps a rebuilt foundation anew? Her heart thumped in her chest. With them both floating in uncharted waters, what they built together would either rise or crash beneath the weight of their histories. Feeling newly empowered yet unsettled, Sarah rested her head back against the pillow, considering the challenges that lay ahead. This next chapter of their lives wouldn't unfold easily. They would need to confront the cracks that marred their foundation. Was she ready to carve pathways through their past and embrace the realities of their interconnected lives? As the moments of silence stretched, she sighed, knowing one thing for certain: the time had come to face what they had yet to address, the storm that would test the strength of their fragile bond. In that moment, with the weight of their past bearing down on them, Sarah welcomed the discomfort. An understanding settled deep within her. Transformation would not be born of ease, but of the fiery crucible of honest confrontation. What revelations awaited them once they ventured past the facade of their shared pain? The dim light of the hospital room cast flickering shadows on the walls as Sarah cradled Leah, the newborn's breaths delicately punctuating the stillness. Suspended in this precious moment, she was acutely aware of how her life had bifurcated with this singular event. Motherhood surged through her veins, reshaping her identity, but the shadows of her past, particularly the unresolved complexities with Tom, lingered like uninvited guests. As if reading her mind, Tom shifted in his seat, his eyes reflecting uncertainty yet marked determination. "I know I have a lot to prove," he said, breaking the silence that wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. His admission stirred something within her, a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Could his desire to change truly manifest into actions, or would it merely be another facade? With Leah soundly asleep against her chest, Sarah diverted her focus inward. In the swirling vortex of motherhood, she felt her own insecurities rising like tides. What if she faltered? What if she didn't possess the strength to navigate this new reality? She peered at Tom, whose face flickered under the neon hospital lights, revealing a man caught between hope and the ghost of past failures. "Actions speak louder than words," she said quietly, her voice devoid of accusation, yet firm. Tom met her gaze, a slight sigh escaping his lips, as if conceding the weight of expectation resting on his shoulders. That evening, when Leah awoke for a feeding, Sarah felt an unexpected rush. The autonomy she fought so hard to reclaim flickered beneath the surface. She had shielded herself from vulnerability for so long, afraid that opening up would lead to abandonment yet again. Wasn't parenting, though, the ultimate act of vulnerability? It struck her that to embrace this new chapter, she would need to dismantle her defenses. In quiet moments, while Tom rocked Leah back to sleep, Sarah contemplated more than just their fractured past. She recognized the need to unearth hidden competencies buried beneath layers of hurt, the capacity for forgiveness, the potential for co-creating a nurturing environment together. These were the tools she couldn't afford to overlook. They were as essential to her growth as the love she now felt for her daughter. "What's your biggest fear now?" Tom asked, almost timidly, as he adjusted the swaddled infant in his arms. The question lingered between them like a fragile spider's web, easily disrupted but beautiful in its complexity. "I fear the same thing you do," she responded honestly, allowing herself a rare moment of openness. "That history will repeat itself." Tom frowned, the line of worry marking his brow deepening. "I won't let that happen. This time I'm committed, for real." But conviction was not enough. It required action and consistency. For a fleeting second, Sarah wondered if she had the energy to believe in that conviction. The crux of their reconciliation felt precarious, teetering on the edge of ruin and rebirth. "Let's build a routine then," she proposed, the words igniting her revolutionary spirit. "Something we can both depend on as parents." As Tom nodded in agreement, Sarah sensed a softening within her. It felt foreign yet liberating. Could their journey as new parents become the bridge to mend their past fractures? Days blurring into nights, they began evolving their new normal with Leah, both learning the uncharted language of co-parenting. Every feeding and diaper change cultivated a sense of partnership that Sarah had once thought was beyond reach. Yet within that partnership, moments of tension still surfaced, revealing underlying dynamics that demanded confrontation. With each passing day, the intricacies of her emotional landscape unfolded, revealing dormant scars ignited by simple triggers. The presence of Tom in her life, positive yet reminiscent of heartache, complicated every interaction. Her resolve lay increasingly in embracing discomfort and facing it head-on. As Leah cooed in her crib one morning, Sarah felt an undeniable shift within herself. She could no longer shy away from confronting her past or the ghosts that haunted them both. Tom's willingness to engage in the process sparked a determination that pushed her toward deeper self-reflection. But just as she began to chart her progression, a forgotten email pinged on her phone, a message from the lawyer regarding their divorce settlement. The words leaping from the screen sent a tremor through her. Would unraveling their financial ties release or bind them further? Because with every choice they made, with every obstacle confronted, they stood on the precipice of redefining who they were, not just as estranged partners, but as a cohesive family. Was this the moment for her to embrace the uncertainties of an evolving relationship, or would lingering fears pull them back into the shadows? As she stared at the glowing screen, uncertainty loomed large. Would she take the leap into this new chapter, or would she hesitate, shackled by doubt? The email flickered on the screen, its contents staggering in their implications. Sarah's heart raced as she put the phone down, forcing herself to breathe through the anxiety flooding her. The complexities of financial disentanglement were now mixed with the emotional upheaval she faced daily. What lay beyond the divorce settlement? The thoughts swirled like a storm in her mind, a cacophony of doubt and possibility. She stole a glance at Tom, sitting across the room, quietly engaging with Leah. The sight grounded her momentarily, the way he smiled, the tenderness with which he cradled their daughter. There was a stark contrast between the father he could be and the man she had known. It filled Sarah with an unsettling mixture of hope and trepidation. Was it possible for him to truly evolve, leaving behind the layers of hurt they had woven together? "Mommy?" Leah's tiny voice broke through her thoughts, demanding attention. Sarah's instincts kicked in without hesitation. She rose, instinctively moving towards her daughter, and in that instant, she chose action over hesitation, a decision that felt almost revolutionary. As Sarah settled Leah against her shoulder, she felt a new determination swell within her. It was as if motherhood had bestowed her with a toolkit, the nurturing instincts, the courage to confront her fears. The morning light streamed through the curtains, illuminating the frail threads of her past, yet drawing her toward a promising future. "Maybe it's time we talk about this email," she proposed, her tone steady despite the tremors within. Tom looked up, surprise washing over his features. "You want to discuss it?" "Yeah, our family can't heal if we're still stuck in past wounds." Her voice carried friction. Clarity demanded honesty. Sitting down together on the couch, Leah nestled between them, Sarah struggled with how to frame the conversation. It was a delicate balance. She didn't want to project her fears onto Tom, yet she couldn't ignore the potential repercussions of their choices. What if we mapped a plan for when the divorce goes through? That way, we can set clear paths for both of us and for Leah. Tom nodded, concern etched on his face. "I've been thinking the same thing. It's not just about splitting assets. I want to ensure Leah has stability no matter what. I don't want her to feel the tension we've lived with." His acknowledgement ignited a spark of hope within her. Maybe together they could craft a roadmap that focused on Leah's welfare while funneling their shared vulnerabilities toward constructive dialogue. For the first time, Tom seemed genuinely committed to engaging with the fallout of their past. As they discussed their financial arrangements and potential co-parenting strategies, Sarah felt a new competency surfacing, a clarity in her authority not only as Leah's mother, but as an individual navigating uncharted waters of co-parenting with Tom. Yet, with every plan laid out, the shadows of doubt loomed. Sarah remained aware of the emotional precipice they teetered on. Each discussion led her to confront not just their past failures, but her own lingering trepidations about whether their reconciliation was achievable or merely an optimistic facade. Every choice felt pivotal, but this moment, this commitment to be honest about their entangled lives, allowed her to see new possibilities for growth. It prompted an awareness of how much they both needed to forge a path that could redefine their relationship beyond their painful history. However, just as the conversation lightened, a heavy knock at the door disrupted their fragile equilibrium. Startled, Tom exchanged a glance with her, uncertainty etched on his features. Who could it be? The tension between them hinted at unsaid fears. Whatever awaited on the other side of that door could reshape their journey once more. Taking a deep breath, Sarah steeled herself, recognizing that this new revelation, whatever it brought, might catapult her directly into the next phase of her evolving identity, both as a mother and as a woman forging her way toward independence. Would this unexpected visitor be an ally in her journey, or another ghost from the past? She could only wonder as the knock resonated, pulling at the threads of her burgeoning determination for an uncertain future. Sarah blinked, the sudden knock reverberating in her chest like a warning siren. She felt Tom's gaze flit towards her, searching for answers in a moment that had taken on a weight of its own. Anxiety tugged at her instincts. Who could it be? The maternal urge to shield Leah surged through her, wrestling with the need to confront the uncomfortable. "Stay here with Leah," she whispered, rising with determination despite the unease coiling in her stomach. She could practically hear her heartbeat echoing in her ears as she crossed the small distance to the door. It felt heavy, a portal to a world she wasn't ready to face. With a quick breath, she turned the knob and pulled the door open. Standing before her was a stranger draped in an imposing yet respectful demeanor. He wore a crisp navy suit that accentuated his height and bearing. In his hands, he clutched a briefcase that gleamed against the sunlight. "Sarah Miller?" he asked, his voice smooth yet authoritative. "Yes, who are you?" There was a cautious edge to her reply. The last thing she needed was a confrontation. "My name is Scott Harrison. I'm an attorney," he introduced himself, his gaze fixing on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "I'm here regarding your pending divorce from Tom." The way he phrased it sent a shiver down her spine. "My divorce?" she echoed, glancing back at Tom. He was watching with narrowed eyes, understanding dimming the flat hope that had begun to flicker alive moments ago. "Yes, and it's imperative that we discuss this today," Scott insisted, stepping just inside the threshold uninvited. "There are developments regarding your settlement agreement that I believe you should be aware of." She braced herself against the doorframe, caught between an urge to slam the door and the overwhelming sense of conflict. "Bag your developments," she countered, tone sharpening. "We just had a breakthrough discussion. Can't this wait?" "No, it cannot," he replied, his voice firm and unyielding. "What I'm about to share may change everything you think you know about Tom." Her breath caught, a mix of fear and curiosity dancing in her mind. What could possibly be worse than the gnawing uncertainty that she had been battling every day? She motioned for them to sit in the living room, urgency gnawing at her resolve. Tom's face hardened as they all settled, Leah blissfully unaware and playing with her toys. Scott laid his briefcase on the coffee table, cracking it open with a deliberate slowness that felt unbearably tense. "I've come across some information that could substantially affect the terms of your divorce," he began, shuffling through documents. "Information regarding Tom's financial dealings and his professional standing." Sarah turned to Tom, who seemed unprepared for the onslaught and sat frozen, his expression shifting from confidence to alarm. "They're not what they seem, Sarah. Please, it's not what you think," Tom started, desperation creeping into his voice. Her heart raced, the walls around her closing in. The prospect that she could be naive about Tom's true character clawed at her self-awareness. Scott pulled out a document, sealing the fate of the moment. "This is a report I received. It appears Tom has made significant financial decisions that contradict his declaration of assets in your divorce proceedings." Sarah's mind reeled, thoughts colliding like rush hour traffic. Toxic excitement mingled with the fear of betrayal. "What do you mean?" "I mean, there are discrepancies in his financial disclosures, decisions that may not only affect your divorce settlement, but also raise questions about trust and transparency." She looked again at Tom, seeing a man she had thought she understood slowly morphing into a stranger. How much had he concealed from her during their union? The room felt claustrophobic, shadows leaping around them, as she fought to contain her rising anger and betrayal. In that moment, the uncertainty of her evolving identity crystallized. This wasn't just about the legalities of their separation. It pinned her against a wall steeped in revelations that could redefine motherhood, partnership, and the authority she was just beginning to recognize within herself. "Let's clarify this," she demanded, her voice fully steadied. "If there's truth to what he's saying, Tom, you need to talk. I won't go another minute with half-truths and lies." As the words left her mouth, she sensed a shift, not just in the atmosphere of the room, but within herself. This was a pivotal moment, an intersection on the dangerous road to recovery and growth. Would Tom step forward and finally confront the reality of his past choices? Or would he choose to retreat into the shadows of deception once more, leaving her alone to grapple with the truth of her own evolution? Sarah could feel the tension coil tighter, waiting for him to respond as she drew a deep breath, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Tom opened his mouth, the words teetering at the edge of some precipice. But instead of a clarifying confession, a heavy silence enveloped the room. Sarah felt the air thicken, a palpable barrier of hesitance that forced her to recognize the gravity of the moment. Time slipped into a slow crawl, each second stretching out. "Sarah," he finally began, his voice barely a whisper, "you have to understand." "No," she interrupted, urgency rushing in. "What I need to understand is why you didn't tell me." Tom's shoulders slumped, as if he were bearing the weight of an unseen burden. "I didn't think it would matter that much. What did you think?" she challenged, her voice hardening. "That I wouldn't deserve the truth? That lying would somehow protect me?" A flash of defiance sparked in his gaze, but it quickly faded into something more vulnerable. "I was trying to protect Leah." The mention of their daughter pierced through Sarah like a dagger, the irony cutting deep. Where was the protection in deceiving the very fabric of their family? "You're protecting her from the truth or from me?" Scott shifted in his seat, the tension in the room escalating. He could sense the crossroads they were at. Sarah's battle was both with Tom and within herself. "If I may interject," Scott finally said, his professional demeanor offering a brief reprieve, "it's crucial that you both address the implications of what's in these documents, especially in relation to Leah's well-being." "I'm managing my family, thank you," Tom retorted sharply, but Sarah saw the flicker of courage in his eyes begin to dim. This was about transparency now, not just for her, but for their child. "Tom, you need to tell me the truth," she pressed, feeling the first stirrings of strength washing over her. "All of it. Your mistakes, your choices. I deserve to know." Tom's defenses crumbled, his face losing its bravado. After an agonizing moment, he began. "There's been a financial mismanagement, but I never meant for it to come to this. I thought I could salvage it without involving you." "Salvage what, exactly?" she asked, crossing her arms tightly across her chest, as if bracing against the weight of betrayal. "There was a deal, a partnership that fell through. I've been trying to recover without letting you see the impact on our lives." The words hit her with the force of a great wave crashing against the shore of her resolve. She felt angry, fuming with disappointment in Tom's cowardice, but even more infused with a sense of clarity. "That's the reality of our situation, Tom. You didn't just leave me in the dark about finances. You let me trust you while you concealed a crumbling foundation beneath us. You must know this has affected me in ways you can't even begin to understand." Tom's gaze dropped, filled with remorse and the heavy realization of his selfish choices. At the same time, a rogue confidence surged in Sarah. The cracks in their partnership illuminated her desire for self-actualization. She did not need to remain shackled by Tom's misdeeds. Clenching her fists, she felt an internal fire ignite. She was tired of playing the role of the naive wife, consumed by a veil of deceit. "I refuse to be the victim in this," she declared, a new conviction coloring her tone. "This changes everything. I'm no longer just standing by, processing your excuses or half-truths. I can take charge of my life, our divorce, and ensure Leah has the stability she deserves." Scott's eyes reflected admiration as he recognized the metamorphosis unfolding before him. "It's time to leverage this information into something beneficial for you, Sarah," he said carefully, leveling his gaze at her. "You need to protect your interests and also secure Leah's future." For the first time in so long, Sarah felt capable, not just a mother or an estranged wife, but a woman who had agency, who could propel change toward a brighter future. "That's exactly what I'm going to do," she replied, determination sealing her resolve. As the conversation shifted to logistics, Sarah jotted down notes, grasping the reins of her circumstances. But somewhere in the back of her mind lay an unacknowledged fear. What would this newfound strength cost her? Would confronting Tom's betrayal lead her to lose something even more precious, her family as she once knew it? As she exchanged ideas with Scott, the promise of empowerment illuminated her path forward. But shadows lurked behind every decision. Would confronting the truth lead to the redemption of her marriage or the final fracture between them? And as the discussion continued, a new question loomed in the air, echoing loudly in her heart. When everything is at stake, how far was she willing to go to secure her freedom? The air in Scott's office buzzed with a mix of tension and hope. Sarah felt the weight of her newfound resolve pushing against her ribs, urging her to embrace her future with a fierce determination. This shift awakened a realization within her. The power to shape her destiny lay in her hands, despite the chaos surrounding her familial relationships. She pored over the financial documents, now transformed from symbols of betrayal to charts detailing her path forward. Calculating opportunities for negotiation, the raw numbers no longer frightened her. They became pieces of a puzzle she was determined to master. Each line was a mini milestone toward regaining control of her life and securing Leah's future. A steady rhythm pulsed inside her. It propelled her thoughts in new directions. She had read enough to understand the scope of the financial issues, and while the betrayal stung, it sparked a determination she hadn't known before. A single dad and passionate lawyer faced the harsh realities of familial responsibilities every day. They clawed through bureaucracy and regulations for the families they represented. If they could step boldly into the world of the unknown, then why couldn't she? "Scott, I need you to assist me in drafting a plan moving forward," she requested, surprising even herself with the clarity of her voice. This wasn't just about fighting for what was owed, but reclaiming her standing, her sense of self-worth. "We're looking at protecting my assets, making sure Leah doesn't suffer, and positioning myself where I can make informed decisions." Her ambition surprised Scott. "Are you sure you're ready for that? It can get messy," he cautioned, but his voice was laced with support. "Messy is part of life now. I've realized I can't tiptoe around this anymore. I need to embrace whatever comes next," she replied, a spark of defiance dancing in her eyes. "I won't just be a pawn in Tom's game." They began to sketch out a series of actions. Timelines for filing documents, meeting with financial advisors, and establishing a clear document trail were all necessary first steps. Sarah marveled at her meticulously organized thought process. It felt empowering. She was no longer half of a partnership defined by secrets. She was becoming wholly herself, strong, purposeful, and ultimately free. As Sarah engaged more deeply with Scott on legal nuances, she began practicing how she would communicate her decisions to Tom. Each word in her mind flared with intensity, reflecting her desire to confront his actions with honesty, backed by her newfound authority. Yet, with every decision she mapped out, a fresh layer of dread settled in her stomach. Would Tom fight back? What would he say when faced with her demand for transparency? Sharing this new persona with Leah held its own uncertainties. Would her daughter see her as a victor or a villain? Balancing her maternal instincts with her drive for personal sovereignty felt overwhelmingly daunting. Conversations with colleagues at work shifted in nature, too. As she exchanged words, the tension in their discussions morphed into a revelation of her unspoken journey. They offered encouragement, their empathetic nods unveiled their awareness of her struggle. Each encouraging smile pressed her forward, and with every interaction, she absorbed their insights like a sponge. The thoughts she had kept bottled up were now spilling over, urging her to create not just an exit strategy, but a new, self-defined life. Yet, with empowerment came isolation. Engaging in long chats about her future felt akin to stepping into a void, the transient taste of elation intertwined with pangs of loneliness. How had she arrived at this junction, where gaining independence meant risking her emotional bonds? Just as she began to identify the intertwining strands of her emotional conflict, a stillness washed over her. What she once regarded as invaluable, her family, now presented as a stark obstacle rather than an anchor. Untangling her emotional attachments threatened to usher in a storm she felt unprepared for. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, the door swung open, and in walked Tom, his expression unrecognizable. "We need to talk," he said, his voice wavering between apprehension and urgency. The moment hung heavy in the air, and without parsing through the turmoil, Sarah realized she stood at a critical juncture. It was time to face the man who had dismantled her trust, but might now unknowingly hold a key to her future. How would she respond to Tom's unsteady declaration, and what unexpected revelations would emerge from this confrontation? As the stakes grew ever higher, so did her resolve. Tom's presence in the room sent a rush of emotions coursing through Sarah. She took a deep breath, drawing on the newfound empowerment she had cultivated over the past few days. This was not just a conversation. It was a crucial negotiation of her future. The stakes were high, but so was her determination to redefine her narrative. "Okay," she said firmly, her voice steady, despite the whirlwind of tensions. "What do we need to talk about?" Tom shifted uneasily, the tension in his posture a mirror of their shared past. "I heard from Scott," he began, his tone cautious. "I'm aware that things have changed, and I want to discuss how we can move forward." The words brushed against the raw edges of her heart. The intent to discuss felt like an olive branch, but she could also sense the weight of hesitation in his voice. "Move forward?" she echoed, narrowing her gaze. "After everything, why should I trust your perspective now?" Tom flinched at the accusation, the walls of their emotional history slumping under the scrutiny. "Because I care about you and Leah. I never meant for it to get this far," he admitted, his voice quavering with an unexpected vulnerability. "I want to fix this." Sarah felt the urge to dismiss his apology. The betrayal still coursed through her veins like fire. Yet there was something genuine in Tom's eyes, a flicker of awareness that he could no longer outrun. The reminder of Leah's innocence tugged at her conscience. "Fixing it will require more than just words, Tom. It will require honesty and transparency." She paused, weighing whether to reveal the extent of her plans, to confront their fractured relationship, deliberating on what to disclose at this pivotal moment. "Scott informed me about your financial activities, and frankly, I'm disappointed, no, devastated by what I've learned." Tom's features hardened, a storm brewing beneath the surface. What else did he say? The question hung heavy in the air. It was a moment to command the narrative of their conversation. "It doesn't matter what Scott thinks," she said firmly. "What matters is how you plan to address this. I refuse to be a pawn in your games. It's time to lay everything on the table. No more secrets." "I'm not hiding any more," he replied, his tone shifting. "I'll show you the financial records. I'll come clean about everything. I know I've made mistakes, but I always wanted to keep you and Leah shielded from my failures." His intent felt thin, but that glimmer of sincerity sparked something inside her. It was time for her to reclaim control, not just of their conversation, but her agency as a woman and mother entwined in this complex web. "We need a foundation based on trust. I want an agreement that secures our daughter's future, one where I understand your financial standing and I won't have to question it anymore." Tom's expression betrayed a mix of relief and fear. "I'll work on that," he promised, "but know that I want to be a good father, truly, this time." Her heart wavered between doubt and a flicker of hope. This was not just about financial stability. It demanded the reclamation of her identity through confrontation. Proving yourself won't happen overnight, Tom. I need to see consistent actions, not just promises. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, he replied. Let's set a timeline for our transparency. Every step documented for Leah's sake. We can meet regularly with Scott to ensure we're on the same page. Sarah nodded slowly, feeling the weight of overwhelming responsibility shift. It was no longer just an escape plan. With these new agreements, she was constructing a pathway for both her and Leah, a clearing through the chaos. Transparency with Scott creates a new contract for us as co-parents, she affirmed, and we have to address things together even after the divorce is finalized. Tom shifted forward. I'm in. I want my relationship with Leah to be strong, and that starts with us, not holding on to resentment. With that, Sarah leaned back, feeling a firm resolve settle into her bones. They were not simply navigating a divorce. They were forging a new beginning from the ashes of their past. In that moment, Sarah understood the power of resilience and the necessity of confronting truths head-on. No longer would she shy away from her fears or allow others to dictate her decisions. Each step she took would align her with her identity as a mother, unwavering, strong, and unyielding in her choices. I need you to commit to working through this together, she reiterated. And that means being completely open with me about everything, from finances to your emotions. Can you do that? Tom took a deep breath, his face a reflection of the daunting task ahead. Yes, I promise to be vulnerable and open moving forward. Then let's build something better, for Leah and for ourselves, Sarah stated, the grounded strength within her rising, enveloping the previous self-doubt. As they began to outline the specifics of their new structure, meeting times, accountability measures, and methods to ensure Leah remained their mutual priority, a sense of possibility unfolded. Through grappling with vulnerability, Sarah laid the foundation for a new reality where they could redefine what it meant to be a family, not as estranged partners, but as allies in co-parenting. Days morphed into weeks as they shared responsibilities, documenting and strategizing for Leah's well-being. There were stumbles and moments of friction, of course, but every confrontation pushed Sarah deeper into her own strength. Tom's questions revealed layers of his own brokenness, and with each discussion, they both unveiled the humanity behind resentments born of shared history. Facing tumultuous waters, their tentative progress still mustered moments of joy, a shared smile across the nursery, a comforting touch after a long workday, a lesson learned together in raising their daughter. Each exchange deepened their understanding of partnership, transforming fear into a resolute bond defined by accountability and unearthing forgiveness as a new territory for them both. With every passing day, Leah grew, not just as a child, but as a beacon of possibility, the living testament to a connection that, though complex, could burn bright again from old ashes. Standing strong together through the storms of doubt, Sarah learned that true fulfillment stemmed from the courage to confront her past, embrace discomfort, and not merely endure but thrive alongside Tom as co-parents. As summer faded into autumn, Sarah's sense of self solidified. She explored her passion for creativity again, slowly picking up paintbrushes that had long lain dormant, crafting canvases that echoed back the hues of her new beginnings. Each stroke on her canvas mirrored her transformation, an act of rediscovering forgotten parts of herself. And amidst art and motherhood, she emerged empowered and grounded, no longer a woman defined by hurt, but sculpted by resilience and the relentless pursuit of hope. She knew she had built something substantial from nothing, an undeniable testament not just of survival, but of triumph over adversity. With every breath she took as a mother, artist, and partner, she welcomed the importance of those pivotal transformations, embracing the clarity within her heart and the fullest expression of her identity. So join Sarah on her journey to discover personal empowerment through confronting doubt and uncertainty, Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's transformative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.